Hi, mathematicians. All right, it's time for our lesson for tomorrow. We are working on session Unit 7, Module 2, Session 1. So, new section, and we're going to be working on division. And it's division is division. We're going to work on how to divide. We're going to use money today to help us with what we're doing, all right? And at the end, I'll have posted what your math homework is that you have to do. All right, today, here's what we're doing. The purpose of today's problem string is so that we can review operations of dividing a whole number by a fraction in the context of grouping as what we first did back in Unit 5. So today, I need you to take your journal, and you need to write today's date on it, and you need to write fraction division with money problem string. And I don't care if you write problem string or not, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a problem string. So I'll give you a moment. You can always pause the video if you need to write something down. And let's start in with our first one. Our first problem today. And you're going to see when I get to this that I have 4 that are up on this paper. And I am going to find, maybe this will be a good color pen to show you the answers that we're doing. All right. We're going to be working with money, and we are going to still be doing equations and ratio tables. So the very first question that I'm going to ask you is, how many dimes are there in $1? Well, I think we all know that pretty quickly, right? There's 1 dime in $1, or I mean, 10 dimes in $1. So how much is 1 dime worth? 1 dime is going to be worth that 1/10 of $1. So when I'm asking this question, how many dimes are there in $1? The question or the equation that I need to write says 1 divided by 1/10. That's what I want to know. That's what I'm asking. I want to know the answer. So as a ratio table, we're going to do dimes over dollars. And I can fill in. I know that if I have 1 dime, that is 1/10 of $1. And to get 1/10 over here to equal $1, I know that what I need to do is I can add 10 dimes together, 10 plus 10 plus 10, or the other way what we do that is we multiply this by 10. Because that's what we had to do on the bottom. We multiplied it by 10. So we know that we get 10 dimes in $1, right? And the same way for our second problem, it asks how many dimes are there in $2, all right? Well, we take all that information we know from before. First, we're going to write our equation. I'm asking in $2, how many dimes are there? A dime is equal to 1/10 of $1, right? So how many 1/10ths are there in $2? That's really what I want to know. So I do my ratio table, dimes over dollars. Here's all the information. You're going to see I just did this information up above, right? There's 1 dime equals 1/10 of $1. So in $1, there were 10 dimes. What do I have to figure out in order to get that to $2? So yesterday, or 2 days ago when we were doing our problems, we were always trying to get to the 1. What was the answer above the 1? Well, today we're taking it another step, and we're still doing division to figure this out, right? But in order to get this 1 to equal 2, we're using multiplication to help solve our division problem. Because remember, we can do that. So in order to figure this one out, I need to multiply this by 2, and if I multiply the bottom by 2, of course I multiply the top by 2. So 10 times 2 equals how many? Exactly. 20 dimes are in $2. That's what they want to know. All right. Moving on, our next problem string. And at any point, I want you to stop. Make sure you're writing some of this down and try to solve it on your own before you copy all the words that I'm doing. All right. I want you to be able to see why we're doing what we're doing. All right. I want it to make sense to you. So the question becomes, how many nickels are there in $1? Well, I know a nickel is worth 5 cents, and I know that if I take 5 times 10, no, that's not going to be right. 5 times 2, there we go. 5 times 2 equals 10. And if I need it to be a dollar is like 100, so 5 times 20, right? So I know that a nickel is actually 1/20th of a dollar. And that's what they want to know. In a dollar, how many 1/20ths are there? So again, we do our ratio table, nickels over dollars. And we put 1 nickel is equal to 1/20th of a dollar. To figure out this right here, what did I have to multiply that by? To get it to be the 1? By 20, right? So I'll multiply the top by the same thing, by 20, and of course there's that answer. So again, I know this is simple math. I know that you understand how many dimes or nickels because you can take the money and use it right in front of you, and you should if you're struggling, all right? But I'm pretty sure that you aren't struggling and that you probably get this. So I'm using money because it's easy to see our fractions, and that's what we're working on, is dividing fractions. And money just makes the most sense on this. All right, last problem string on this particular page says how many nickels are there in $2? Same sort of question. I take 2 for the $2 and I have to divide it by 1/20th because I remember that 1 nickel is worth 1/20th of $1, right? So how many 1/20ths are there in $2? Here's my ratio table, nickels over dollars. And again, I'm using a lot of the information that I just did to figure out 1. In order to take 1 and make it into 2, I know that I have to multiply it by 2. And if I multiply the bottom by 2, of course I need to multiply the top by the same. So my answer, I can see right there, is 40. There are 40 nickels in $2. All right, that's pretty good. Let me show you what the big idea is. What they want you to remember on this is that the big idea from a while ago, let me clip it on. A few units ago, we were working on trying to, hold on, I need this to stay flat for us. We were working on trying to do division, and we learned about grouping, or as they called it, quantitative interpretation of division. Whew. I don't remember it being called that when we were working on it, but I do kind of remember how when we were working on this, that when we did this, it made more sense than sharing when it became dividing a whole number by a fraction. That's hard to do. How do you divide a whole number by a fraction? You might remember at this point that we did take out our GeoBoards, and if that is something that helps you on your iPad, get out your GeoBoard app, all right? So take what you know, look for the whole picture, and divide it down. So if that's a way that can help, use that tool, all right? And again, we're using money because it's a really good, easy way to find an example of this, all right? And basically, you know the size of the group. For instance, I knew that 1 dime was worth 1/10. And remember, I'm trying to do fractions on here. So 1 dime is worth 1/10. I knew that, right? I just need to know how many groups of that size can be made. So out of $2, it asks how many groups of 1/10 could be made. That was the question. All right, let's try a couple more problem strings. I have 2 more pages of problem strings. They shouldn't take too long. Although the last one is filled with challenges. But I think you're up for them. All right. On this paper, you're going to see I started it out and I filled it in a little bit like what I did before, but then I left some blanks because I want us to be able to fill them in together. So the question they ask is, how many quarters are in $1? Pretty sure you guys already know that answer right away, right? You know without even figuring it out that there are 4 quarters in $1. Because, well, we aren't babies anymore, and probably even when you were in 1st grade, you probably knew there were 4 quarters in $1. That's good. Now let's see how the math works in that, because I want you to be able to see it in a ratio table, mostly because when you're working on story problems today, they're going to get more complicated. And if you know the simple math, then you can break it down and go back to what you know, okay? So, first thing we need to do is we need to write our equation. And in this particular one, I know I need to take the dollar, all right? That's what I take $1 and I'm breaking it down or dividing it into quarters. And a quarter is 1/4, right, of $1. So then I do my ratio table, quarters over dollars. All right. If I know that there's 1/4 is equal to 1/4 of a dollar, what do I need to do to get that to be $1? Again, pretty easy. I multiply it by 4, right? See how I'm taking that whole number and multiplying it? So remember 4 times 1/4 is like saying 4 over 1 times 1 over 4. And then I multiply straight across and I would get 4 over 4 or reduce it down to 1. So if I multiplied the bottom by 4, I need to multiply the top by 4. And there's where I get my 4/4. So again, I know you guys knew that there are 4/4 in $1, but I really want you to be able to see the math. That's why we're doing this, all right? So when we get to more complicated problems, we know that we can break it down because we know this stuff. We really do. It's just a matter of sitting down, pausing, and putting your brain right in order, like going, oh, wait, I know this. You do know this. All right. So the next question asks, they bumped it up and they said, how many quarters are there in $4? So we're still going to use the same ratio table, and I'm going to start with my equation though first. $4. I'm dividing that. I want to know how many quarters I can get in $4. So instead of writing out quarters and dollars this time, I put a Q and a D. I'm okay if you're doing that in your books. I'm never going to look at it. Whatever system works for you is perfect as long as you remember it. So you don't think this is queens over dolls. That's crazy. So whatever system you work is fine with me. All right. So we go back and look. Same information again that I have above. I know that there's 1/4 in 1/4 of $1. And in order to get this one here, I multiply that by 4, right? So 4 over 4 is going to be equal 1. Multiply my top by 4. 4 times, I'm sorry, I was not thinking correctly. Oh, no, I was. So 1 times 4, this is where I get my 4. This is where I get my 1. I'm taking it one step farther. What do I need to do now on this second arrow to get that to be 4? Confused myself because I'm thinking, well, I just multiplied that by 4. Oh, wait, I have to multiply it again. Multiplying the top and the bottom by 4, I get 4 in this spot. 4 times 4 is how much? Should be 16/4 in $4, right? You guys know that. Here's where we get a little more tricky, all right? Where we start to mix it up. How much is a half a dollar worth? Well, that's kind of easy right there. A half of $1. In $1, I know that I can have 2, right? 2 half dollars, right? In $1. If I have 1 half dollar, there's my half dollar. Now to get to $3, what did I have to do to take that 1 to the 3? Multiply that by 3. And if I multiply the bottom by 3, I need to multiply the top by 3 on my ratio table. Or in other words, I know that there are 6 half dollars in $3, right? There was my equation. I took the total number. I have $3. I want to break it down into half dollars, right? 3 divided by 1/2 gave me my answer of 6. Hopefully you're also going to notice here that we said when we divide a number by a fraction, what happened to it? What did you remember? That number gets bigger, right? When we multiplied a number by a fraction, the answer was smaller. When we divided a fraction or a number by a fraction, the number got bigger. Our answer got bigger. All right, I have one more paper for you, and it's the challenges. See if we can do this one together. How many dimes are there in half of a dollar? Now, I didn't write the equation yet because I want to do this together. I know that I take 1/2, because I seem to always start with that last one, right? That's the one I want to break down. And remember, I'm using the word or division here to mean break down. So I want to take a half a dollar and I want to break it down into dimes. What do you remember about a dime? A dime is worth how much? We're putting these in fractions, so I need to have that dime in a fraction state or 1/10, right? So here I wrote my ratio table. There is 1 dime equals 1/10 of a dollar, right? Huh. I don't want this to be $1. I want to know how many in just half of a dollar. So this right here needs to be half of a dollar, but how do I get 1/10 to turn into 1/2? That just doesn't make sense. We haven't learned this yet, but I'm pretty sure you probably know this as well. We need to find that common denominator, and that's what I started to do right here, all right? 1/2, what do I need to do to make this 2 into a 10? Well, I'm pretty sure that you all know 2 times 5 equals 10. And again, just like in our division, if I multiply the bottom by a number, I need to multiply the top by a number, right? So that's going to equal 5/10. So instead of writing 1/2 here, I could write 5/10. So what did I have to do to take 1/10 and get it into here? I had to multiply it by 5, right? So that would show me that there are 5 dimes in a $1/2, which I know is right because a $1/2 is worth 50 cents and 5 dimes is also worth 50 cents, right? But I want you to be able to see the math. That's why we're doing this. All right, last challenge problem. How many nickels are there in half a dollar? Gosh, I'm pretty sure you guys are pretty smart mathematicians. And even without me figuring this out, I could take this equation up here, and I'm pretty sure you could figure it out. A nickel, how many nickels are in a dime? Pretty sure you said 2. So what do you think the answer is going to be up here? What would I need to do to this answer to figure out this answer down here? If you guessed, multiply it times 2, because for each 1 dime, there are 2 nickels. Let's see if that's right. All right. So my question, how many nickels are there in a half a dollar? I know that I want to take a half a dollar and I want to break it down into nickels. And from my last pages, I remember that a nickel, if I'm thinking about it in terms of a dollar, a nickel, 1 nickel is worth 1/20th of a dollar, right? 1 nickel, so divide it by 1/20th. That's the equation. When I look at this equation, I'm thinking, man, I don't know how to do that one. I don't know how to figure that out. But guess what? You do. And you can do it with a ratio table. You guys have this. So let's see, what do I need to do on this now? If it's 1/20th of a dollar, all right, and I'm just going to make sure I have my papers up so I'm telling you all exactly the right thing. All right. I know that nickels are 1/20th, right? 1/20th of a dollar. 1/20th of a dollar? That's not what I'm looking for. I want 1/2 of a dollar, right? 1/2 of a dollar. 1/2 of a dollar is equal to, 1 nickel equals, 1/20th of a dollar. I did have that right. Sorry, don't listen to me here. I have to look at my notes and then I know 1 nickel is worth 1/20th of a dollar, right? And I'm looking for how much a half a dollar is. 1/20th equals how much is 1/2 of a dollar in terms of 20. All right, what do I have to do here? I have to take this. In order to get that to be a 20, I have to multiply this by 10. So that means I multiply this by 10. 10/20ths. That's going to be my half dollar. And what I need to do for there is if I multiply this, in order to take 1/20th and turn it into 10/20ths, I multiplied it by 10. So that means I need to multiply the top by 10. 1 times 10 is 10. What did I get up here? 5 times 2, 2 nickels and 1 dime, I would have had the answer up there. So, pretty good stuff. You guys are pretty smart when it comes to all this. All right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go into your student book today. You have student book pages that you need to do. On our student book, we're doing pages 265 and 266. It is called Story Problems. There's no homework tonight because you already did a home connection 2 nights ago, and then yesterday was sort of a checkpoint for me to see how you guys are doing, which, by the way, everybody is doing very well. And then we're still working on our spiral review, which is Q for quarter 3.9. So go to it, mathematicians. Give me a call. Give me an email if you have any questions. All right? See ya.